But then I happened one day to, during this time went to the college library, and I think I was working on my lawsuit still, putting something together, but I wanted to go to the computer lab. And I had no forethought whatsoever as to, I hardly ever went to that computer lab. I mean, I think I'd been there maybe once or twice to make copies on some things. No, I'd been there a few times actually, because I did use their printer and stapler for my motions and that kind of thing. But I went there that day, just had no plan. I had a time to sit in my usual seat. I always chose a different seat, and it was so crowded you couldn't really pick where you were going anyway. And I just happened to sit next to this man, and I don't know why, but I was very attracted to him, and I really can't explain it. I had no idea he was Iranian. I had no idea. Well, I guess half Iranian. I'm not sure what his other half was. Or maybe he was full Iranian, but like American Iranian. I had no idea. And I also had no idea, when I sat down next to him, that he had any kind of connection to St. Andrews in Scotland, the university. I just started talking to him, like as I've said, sometimes I strike up conversation. I didn't have a plan. I wasn't trying to. I didn't have any forethought into it. Wasn't trying to flirt with him. I just thought he looked kind of different, and I think I asked him where he was from or what he did or something like that, and then he told me. And I actually don't believe that I asked what his nationality was. I might have asked him what he was working on or something. I think I probably thought he was Italian or something. I'm not sure. But it's really not that big of a deal, but I think that it kind of became a big deal in some regards. And I didn't really notice that. And also I should add, in addition to just dating people and not having anything to do with them intimately, I mean, I dated some Middle Eastern men from Iraq and Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. That was kind of interesting. The guy from United Arab Emirates, if I was this big city, and they have sand too, and they have camels, and they traveled in a caravan, and like a nice one. And those guys were very funny. They had a very good sense of humor. I mean, I think that from what I saw from the Middle Eastern culture, they're very appreciative of situational humor, which is also sort of my style. And kind of cheerful, like to tease you a little bit. The women were very nice, a little more guarded, just, woman to woman, but nice. And then, of course, there were other people that I tutored and met who had other nationalities, and I thought they were all fascinating. I really liked working with them because I felt like this is the next best thing to traveling, because I get to hear about all of these interesting stories, and these people are from all over the world, and I really loved it. So I never really cared what someone's nationality or race was. And for whatever reason, I have no idea what got into me, but I asked him, he showed me some photos of his girlfriend that was at St. Andrews, and she was pretty, and I said, oh, that's nice. But I thought, well, he says this is kind of his girlfriend, but he's been away from her for how long? 6 months. Didn't sound like he was very serious, and some people just call a woman that they write a letter to now and then, or email their girlfriend or boyfriend. It's not a big deal. I mean, they're not engaged. So I didn't consider it cheating at all to ask him if he wanted to go hang out with me. And I really have no idea how we ended up making out in my car, but we did. And that was very rare, especially for me at that time. It was very unusual and random circumstance. And after that, we went out, or I invited him over a couple times. But, actually that first night, I was being stalked by Portland police. And we had gone to this parking place that was like in the middle of nowhere. And we're making out, and the police showed up and told him to get out of the car, told him to walk away from my car, spoke to him privately, and then they came up to me and said, "Do you know how old he is?" And at that time I was 28, and I knew he was, I think he was like 19 or 20. And so what if I'm 28 and he's 19 or whatever? He was definitely over the age of 18, and when I had first met him, and actually, when I first met him, I had thought he was much older. He looked a lot older. I thought he was like mid-20s, early to mid-20s. And then before we made out or anything, I think that his age came up, and he did tell me his age, but it was legal. I mean, it wasn't taking advantage or doing anything weird. So, and honestly, I was so sheltered and naive, I probably had the dating equivalency, knowledge of somebody who was about 16. So it really wasn't, I mean, I would never justify someone crossing the age lines and that kind of thing. But I was already on safe territory, and aside from that, in every way there was no unequal footing or ground or anything like that experience. So, then we went out. He took me out one time to a little cafe. We had Perrier or some sort of water. I don't remember what I had. I had some sort of kind of an apricot seltzer spritzer thing. And I definitely felt I was under watch and being surveilled. Oh, and the police, they finally said they let him go. But they also said to me, after asking if I knew how old he was, they said, "Do you know who this is?" And I just thought, what a weird thing to say. Do I know who this is? Who is he? Genghis Khan? I mean, I have no idea who he is and why you're stalking me and coming up to my car and interrupting a decent time that we were having there. And then to just go on and on about, "Do you know who this is?" And I said no, and then they wouldn't tell me who it was. And I'm like, so who was he? And then after that, I think he told me, he said his dad was Iranian and kind of did some computer science stuff. But that's all I ever heard. He didn't say, "My mother is such and such, and my father is such and such, and we live here, and then we lived there, and this is why I'm here now." It's kind of irrelevant. So, I guess it was the first time, well, anyway. And then after that, like, we went out to have something, have a drink, and there were people everywhere. I mean, really, I just felt very watched, and I wasn't sure that he liked me either. I kind of wondered after a while, I thought, is he just kind of hanging out with me, or, I mean, like, wasn't sure really what was going on. But, and then I started meeting a couple other Iranian people or Persian people, just randomly, I'm not sure how, and I got to try their Persian food, which was very good, and that's how I met the first Persian people I ever knew. I was in Portland, Oregon. And also, at the time, I think it was before I even met them, I had considered studying Persian because I liked how the script looked. I liked it just slightly more than Arabic. I thought it was just a little bit more sort of flowing or something or other. They're very close. But I thought if I'm going to study a language, and I really loved poetry, and I heard that Persian, there are a lot of Persian poets. So I thought I might study that. And I ended up taking French instead because I'd already started with college French. So I kept on with my French track at that time. So all this to say, it was just sort of, not out of the ordinary for me. I dated people from different parts of the world and never thought anything of it. But I didn't really realize that, and Iran, there wasn't like a huge political problem with them then, but maybe it was sort of sensitive then. I have no idea. I really wasn't political. I had no political motivations. I voted Republican typically, but I never followed politics. I was a very apolitical person. I had no agenda. I had no desire to have an agenda. And when I voted, I just voted for what I thought was right at the time. So what was interesting is that the next time that he was at my apartment, right after he left, all of a sudden the FBI knocked on the door. So I opened the door after he left. It was like 10 minutes later. The two FBI SSAs were right there with their badges and everything. They said, "Can we talk?" I said, "Okay." And I thought, first I have police right next to my car when I'm with this Iranian guy. Now I have the FBI showing up, coming out of the bushes, 10 minutes after this man has left my house. And that was the last time I ever saw him. I never saw him after that. I don't think that I called him, and I don't think he called me. I think I was sort of wondering why the FBI showed up right after he left. And I'm going to save the rest of about what information I gave the FBI at that time, and then how they wrote it up, and how they were trying to structure my testimony and alter it. And then I'll try to get into the actual evidence. It includes how they did alter it. It made me sound totally crazy. So, and I will also continue with other things that were going on with my lawsuit at the point that I first made this report. So, that's it for today. This evening. I am still being tortured. I'm trying to talk fast and assertively despite being tortured, and it's been ongoing all day. It's been extremely severe. I am in a lot of pain. I've taken 6 Advil, didn't do a thing. It's to the point where I can't. It's very bad. They let up a little bit while I was talking. However, in my house they crank it up really high and hard to the point that, basically it's like they're mocking me. I was implanted with these microchips. All these people made fun of the idea that I was like a Teletubby, and they put implants in my mouth. I can get into how that correlates to my childhood and something that I gave my brother when I was a little girl. I gave him this little bear, and I told him to call it Tubby. And it had a plastic face, like the Teletubbies, which came out later after I was implanted with microchips, which is another story. But the bear, had a little plastic face, and then the mouth was sort of open in an O, kind of a round mouth, and then it had a thumb, and you could put the thumb in. I think I was 9 years old. My brother was about 7 or so. When I got it for him, I got it for him in a public store, in public. I didn't wrap it. I just bought it, and then I gave it to him there, and he didn't know what to name it, and I said, "Call it Tubby." Sort of like a precursor to those, I don't know, those little stuffed animals that people started giving each other later that had little names already attached. So, you put a thumb in the mouth, and then it's stuck in the plastic face. The rest of the body of this bear was cloth. So then, after 1985, when I got implanted with microchips, 2 years later, the United Kingdom comes out with an idea for a preschool show called Teletubbies. And this is, I was implanted at a university. They got money after they did this to me for telesurgery and telepharmacy. So then 1 year after that, the United Kingdom is coming up with this cartoon about Teletubbies that look exactly like the bear that I gave my brother, like almost a decade earlier. And sort of feels like a mockery of me because I had little implants put into my mouth, like the thumb of the bear goes into my mouth and stays there. Well, I had little microchips and other nodule things put under my chin, into my neck, and a couple other places when they did surgery for my neck.